So I'm delighted that we're getting the opportunity to have this conversation in this wonderful heritage room. So, and we've obviously know each other well. We've worked together for 7 years now, in my capacity as a Vistage chair, which I know we'll talk about a bit more later. And this is a fantastic setting in a fabulous business. It's been going 150 years. I'd love for people to hear a bit more about what your role is within the business, who you are, and say a little bit more about this wonderful company.
I'm Stephen Bagnall. I'm the chairman and group managing director of our fifth generation family business. Established in 1875 here in Yorkshire, we are a national specialist painting and decorating contractor that operates throughout the UK through a network of 12 branch offices, supported by 650 people approximately. We work for all manner of organisations. As you name it, we've painted it over a 151-year history.
You're the fifth generation, as you say,
correct,
of this family business. When you think about that legacy, what does that responsibility feel like for you?
Well, when you stop and think about it, it's a huge responsibility, but I don't stop myself in my tracks often to do so. It's something that I've known now for, 35 years, 36 years I've been involved in the business. And it's something that, it just is. It's a strong sense of duty and service to the company, and to not only preserve the business, but of course to invest in it and make it stronger and that much more resilient for those who follow on from me, sticking to our values and leaving the place in a better place than when I took it on, effectively as custodian for a period of time.
So you've had an amazing 27-year history with Vistage, and I've been chairing for the last 7 of those. So I'd be curious to hear, your experience of Vistage from those early days with a different chairman through to the last 7 years that you've had with me.
It was rich pickings for me. There was so much to learn. I remember vocabulary and language being used around the meeting table. I just, was absolutely lost with. I had no idea what people were talking about. I actually thought I knew quite a lot at the age of 30, but it soon became apparent that I didn't, in terms of leadership and running an organisation. So it really was a baptism of fire. But I realised that this was a great environment for me to learn. So I had a chairman then who right from the start, he was much older. So he was, I think, 65 when I started. So a very experienced businessman who had been involved in all sorts of different types of business, who became a great friend and a coach to me personally and in business, of course. And that theme continued for 20 years. But of course, then I was the new kid on the block. I was the young guy. I'm now, of course, the old guy. I've been in so long that it's quite interesting to see with the passage of time how, when a young person comes into a group now, I sort of often reflect on how that was me. And, your duty as a member of a group is to support, help, assist, and encourage that person to see that, bluntly, most of the experiences that are shared, the challenges that businesses have, irrespective of sector, size, ownership profile, and what have you, are often very similar. And the same themes come up time and time again.
So true.
So that was the sort of early years, and as far as the last 7 years with your group, again, greater diversity, a different chair, a different style. And that's been very refreshing for me. It was sad to have lost my previous chair. He was an old gentleman when he passed. But the opportunities that come with a fresh approach has been very much welcomed and superbly helpful.
What was it like the first time you walked into a Vistage meeting room and saw this sea of faces, older and wiser people at the time?
Daunting, I think, would be the first word that comes out of my mouth. Didn't know what I was letting myself in for at all. I guess the next closest person in terms of age was probably mid-40s. So there was quite a difference, and I was really only just starting my senior managerial career, and therefore everything seemed new. The group were very welcoming, and the speakers in particular that came to speak in the groups were outstanding. I think that's where I got as much value as indeed the camaraderie and the challenge from the other members. The speakers were remarkable, and that of course started to open my mind up to so many other aspects of leadership and culture, strategy, all of those areas. Very important, of course, areas of leading a business that I had hitherto not experienced or understood. We have 5 colleagues in a Vistage peer advisory group right now, which I think is testament to what the company believes in terms of development of the next generation. So it's a significant investment in the senior team and the team that will follow. And that's in its early days, but I have to say we're very pleased with the results that is beginning to shape.
What surprised you most about working with and learning from a group of peers and fellow business owners rather than, consultants or business advisors?
Working with peers as opposed to advisors or consultants soon became apparent that they're more invested in getting something from the time spent in the group. They are often owner-managers, they have flesh in the game, and they care passionately about the organisation or company that they're leading. And so the advice is that much more authentic. It's probably quite raw. They're prepared to challenge. They don't need to, and indeed didn't, dress up the advice or the guidance that they were given, and that, of course, is super precious. It's very valuable. Sometimes, of course, you hear what you don't want to hear, but that's a very important part of the process, and that's where the real value comes from: a peer group setting and a coaching environment.
Yes, and I guess when you've got a group of genuine peers, there's a respect there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, of course, and of course you develop those relationships and that understanding. People sort of immerse themselves in your challenges, your business, at where it is, what particular season the business is in, etc. And they moderate their advice and support accordingly, and that's very, very precious, which I don't think you really get from a consultant who drops in, drops out, sends you the bill, clears off, and moves on to the next assignment. There's some continuity, and I think that's precious.
When you look back on all of those years, 27 years of peer group learning and coaching, what would you say has been the biggest impact that it's had on you as a leader?
Coaching has been a big part of my personal growth, without question. I think the groups themselves make you realise that most businesses or organisations have similar challenges over time. The similar themes come up time and time again. It's how you respond to them, and there's this constant theme, of course, of us all having blind spots. People will say things in a group, and you say, "God Almighty, why didn't I see that?" But whether you like it or not, there's always something in a blind spot that you haven't considered, which usually is unearthed in those executive sessions, in either in the group setting or indeed on a one-to-one a coaching setting. And it's also very comforting, of course, that running a business, it's lonely at the top, and you're there with people who are invested in your development. They're invested in trying to help you find the right solution for your business, and it's very comforting to know that you've got these allies, these people on board. They've got no reason to give you the answer you want. They will tell you as it is, and whilst sometimes that can be brutal and distinctly uncomfortable, it is the value that coaching in a peer group setting brings. So Yeah, the coaching is very powerful. I mean, but by way of example, I think of Richard, my group ops director, who wasn't the group ops director until I had a very revealing conversation facilitated by you, Robin, whereby I knew damn well this guy was heading for a promotion. I was comfortable that he was more than capable and competent to fulfill the role brilliantly, but I was just not committing. Yet you knew that he was ready for it, he wanted it, he made all the right noises to me, but for some reason we just kept missing each other, and I wasn't committing to a date and a time. He was getting frustrated. All it meant was you sort of joining the thinking up, and then the right answer happened, and the rest is history. And that was resolved, that was reconciled, if you like, those issues of timing. So terribly simple on the one hand, but I was missing it, and he was missing not being completely transparent with me, perhaps.
One of the topics that we explored in the coaching was whether or how ready you felt your leadership team were to be able to step up, and there was some uncertainty around that, and that led to some conversations, and then that led to some decisions being made, or you made those decisions, and now your role is different and their role is different, and I'm just curious how what the pivot point was for you there, and how that learning or that realization helped you to move things forward.
Yeah, it's a great question. There was never any concern about the competence of the team. The issue was more about my state of readiness to allow them to step up to do what I was doing. And I think that was more the issue, that I was still wanting to have very much a hands-on role, and was reluctant to relinquish that. Now, various things happened. I had various health issues, which are no longer health issues, and I also had a daughter who decided to go and live in Australia. So, balancing a situation where I wanted to take a little bit more time out from the business for my own health and well-being, as well as being able to do so to go and visit my daughter in Australia for a length of time, meant that I had to do something different. And that really crystallized my thoughts, because I had a senior colleague who was more than capable, and has subsequently demonstrated way more capable than I ever would be at heading up the operations of the business, which then of course released me to take on a much more strategic role, looking at the legacy piece and doing stuff that others in the business aren't thinking about, and I'm more suited to think about. So from that conversation, a very powerful coaching session that we had, the business was sort of repositioned, or the players on the field were repositioned to play to their strengths, including myself, which means that the business has gone from strength to strength since. But it was a leap of faith, but it was really about me relinquishing a little bit of quite a lot of control for the day-to-day operations of the business to a highly trusted colleague who's doing a great job, as opposed to me feeling that people around me weren't capable or competent to do so. And that's a big decision, and it's a decision, of course, that we see play through in the peer group setting. It's at a certain point in your career, you've got to recognise that you can't keep going on forever, and you have to nurture and bring through the next generation of leaders, which is a process that never stops, but it is accelerated in this business right now.
It can be one of the hardest things to do, can't it? When it's a family business, you're steeped in it, and then suddenly you're handing over the reins a little bit to somebody else.
Sure,
I think we've seen that with lots of members in the group, haven't we?
Yeah.
And
it's a tough thing to do, and it's only now, of course, with the benefit of hindsight, that I can relate to the tussles that I had with my father when he indeed was relinquishing the reins. Yes. He survived his illness, thankfully, and continued for many years. But he struggled with letting go, and I struggled with him not letting go, and that was a point of great friction for quite some time, which we thankfully successfully navigated. But again, it was because we had coaches, both of us had a coach that got us to see the other person's perspective, which was invaluable.
When you've recently stepped back from the day-to-day and you promoted Richard into a major leadership role, what's that transition been like personally for you?
Very satisfying. The transition has meant a lot to me personally, to focus on other aspects of the business that weren't getting much attention previously. So a lot around strategy, culture, legacy, our buildings, the estate that we own, and refreshing and refurbishing our buildings for the next generation. So all of that stuff that wasn't getting much of anybody's attention is now getting virtually 100% of my attention. It means that the operations of the business are being led by Richard, who has become the group operations director and is doing a superb job at it. And the story here is interesting because Richard himself is a great example of what this company has done over many, many years. Bagnall has a reputation for developing people through the ranks. Indeed, Richard, he took some convincing, but Richard is also in a Vistage group and has the benefit of a coach, and has thoroughly has taken an awful lot of value from that experience. So again, he is now in the Vistage community getting value, and he in turn has elected, or selected, should I say, two of his colleagues to also join Vistage Group. So our investment in Vistage is significant. More importantly, our investment in our senior people going forward, using Vistage as the vehicle for their personal growth, is very significant and is paying dividends.
And I remember you talking about Richard for about 3 years before I actually met him, because you were struggling to convince him that joining the key executive group would be a good thing for him to do at the time.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and I think this is where it can be difficult, because until you've had a taster of the experience and the value that is derived from that experience, it's a bold step to get the checkbook out and write a big check out for some learning and development. But once you've been in the group, once you've had an experience of it, you don't look back. It's a very powerful experience, and we have 5 of us now who are benefiting from that journey.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed is that it took you a while to convince Richard, because he thought, well, that's just something CEOs do, and I'm just a painter with a paintbrush in my back pocket, humble to the end. But actually now, he didn't have to do much convincing of the regional director that he promoted into the key group when he moved into the other. Yeah, no,
that's absolutely right.
Yeah, and because that person already understood the value, which was lovely.
Yeah.
And when you look at the leadership team now, running the business day to day, what gives you hope for the future?
Well, I'm delighted with the leadership team we have today. They're doing a great job, and I get a huge sense of pride and satisfaction from knowing that they're great ambassadors for the firm, setting a great example and delivering on what we need to deliver on. And they've done that through their own efforts, as well as hopefully a bit of guidance and support from myself. So I'm enormously proud of that. However, you can never stand still. A day doesn't go by without me thinking about succession and next generation and all of that very important stuff. So, all the time we are thinking about next steps, and we're not thinking about the next 3 months, the quarter. We're thinking in terms of 3, 5, and indeed 10 years. Those are the sort of horizons that I think about on a very regular basis. And what ifs, and if somebody goes under a bus, God forbid, and that sort of thing. So it is an integral part of what I do, what I've done for many years, thinking about progression and development of people through the team. But the team as it is now is doing a great job, but we're working on the next team that will follow the top team right now. And that's very exciting. I find that very fulfilling and satisfying, trying to navigate the best route for those changes that will come in the future.
Bagnall's is a national business, and running a business of that size and complexity, I imagine must consume your whole life, or very easily could consume your whole life. So I'm curious how the peer group learning and the executive coaching relationship we have, how that has impacted on how you view, or how you might have changed your view on family, time, priorities, all of those other things that are equally important.
Balance of perspective. My family have always been number one. For example, I made a commitment to myself I would never miss any school concerts, sports day, all of that good stuff, and I'm very grateful that I honoured my pledge, which has meant that I've got good, strong relationships at home, which I'm very proud of. When it's a family business, it's part of the family. It is central to the operational of the whole ecosystem. It feeds it, it nourishes me, both financially, emotionally, spiritually, and all the rest of it. So finding the balance can often be difficult because they're all fighting for your attention and what have you. I've managed to bring balance through. I do a lot of running. I've run marathons and all sorts of things, which I've found as a massive outlet mentally as well as physically, of course. That's been super helpful in taking me away from the business and thinking about life in its broader sense. But I think the coaching bit has been helpful too, because in that setting we talk about how we're showing up each month in terms of your approach to the business and how the business is doing, your personal growth and also well-being. So these topics are front and centre on a regular basis, and so I am encouraged to think about that on a regular basis and do think about it. And inevitably there's some tweaks and changes that have to be made as you navigate the challenges that every business brings, or indeed any challenges that you have outside of the business that can impact on the other relationship. The business isn't getting your complete focus and attention. So this whole ecosystem is, it's a symbiotic relationship, and they all feed off one another. So the coach has an important role ensuring that you're making sure that each of these very important threads to your life are being cared for and nurtured.
We've worked together for 7 years in the Vistage Peer Advisory Group, and of course we had a one-to-one coaching relationship as part of that setup, and now we're exclusively working together for the exec leadership coaching. So how, from your perspective, has that relationship evolved, would you say?
The relationship has evolved very effectively. You'd be glad to hear.
That's a relief.
There was some quite considerable adjustment that I had to make from the previous coach I had, who had been with me for best part of 20 years. So very different individual, very, very different coaching style. So once I'd adjusted to a new coach, it's been a very, very successful partnership. You're very effective at holding me to account, full of ideas and challenge, and have been instrumental in getting me to see the right answer for our business to move various issues forward. So yeah, it's working really well.
So I often notice that you'll come into a coaching one-to-one with a really clear idea of what you want to focus on, what you want to talk about, and what you'd like to get from it. So how would you say that focus has helped you get the most out of the coaching relationship?
The focus is important because, of course, we're only together typically for a couple of hours, and so it's important that we get the best from the time we spend together. And so coming with something very specific to work through has always been helpful, because by the end of it, without exception, I'm in a much clearer space in terms of the action I need to take to to deal with the issue that I brought to the party. So it just seems sensible that we work through an issue and bring it to a conclusion. And then, of course, when we meet again, usually a month later, you will then inquire as to what action I've taken and hold me to account, in effect, which is a very helpful part of the whole coaching process, of course.
If a business owner, managing director, chief executive was listening to us talk and thinking, I might be open to exploring a Vistage peer advisory group or having an executive leadership coaching relationship, but they hadn't yet taken that next step, what would you advise them to think about in making that decision?
My first thought is don't hesitate, go take a look, and I'm sure you'll never look back. If you're the sort of person who wants to learn, is open to new ideas, is open to being challenged, and genuinely wants to listen to other people's perspective and advice in terms of how you might further develop your business, then I just wouldn't hesitate. It's important, of course, that you see eye to eye with the chair, or the coach, which isn't necessarily a given, but is an important ingredient, because you need to be open, you need to be transparent, you need to be, very, very humble, in my experience, to get the value from it, to reveal yourself, and that's the way you'll get the value from the relationship. But I just wouldn't hesitate. I think in the sort of most difficult times of the transition from my father to myself, I often say, and I really do mean it, because I know what would have happened if we hadn't been in respective peer groups at the time with coaches. I suspect I wouldn't be sat here now. So I could argue that the whole experience did actually save my career. Quite what would have happened here, I don't know, but we don't have to worry about that now because it's all turned out rather well. But I can pin that directly down to having somebody on my shoulder who was acting in my best interests at a very difficult time. And a very difficult time not only for myself, but my father, who was having to relinquish, wasn't having to, but was choosing to relinquish the reins on a job that he'd done all his life. So it's been immensely powerful for me. So I can't say everybody would get that level of return on their investment, but in the many, many companies, organisations and people I've met through the Vistage journey over 27 years, the value I've seen people get is absolutely extraordinary, and I would not hesitate to have somebody working alongside you and a group working alongside you to really push your business on.
What would you say has been the most unexpected benefit of the peer group learning and the coaching experience?
The most valuable takeaway from the coaching experience is having somebody objective and independent who can often see what you can't see. They bring a different perspective to a problem, a challenge, an issue, whatever you want to call it, and they help you to see and to recognise the various options that are available in front of you to commit to. So it's somebody else who's seeing your blind spot and helping you see the right answer, the most appropriate solution for the problem. So it's not unexpected. I would encourage anyone to go into a coaching session or a peer group setting who recognises that round that table you've got very different personalities and people with completely different strengths to you, probably, who are able to spot the big dark hole before you walk straight into it. And that's been very, very powerful. Specifically what those issues are will be different for each person, but that's the value that community and the coaching relationship brings.
Thank you. It's been really enjoyable having this conversation with you in this wonderful heritage room today.
It's been a privilege to have you. Thank you.